What is going on, Cosmic Crew? Thanks for stopping by the channel. Today we have three really big reports to go over, all coming from the insider Alex Perez from thecosmiccircus.com. One about Avengers Secret Wars, another about the fate of Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom, and if he will continue to play Doom in the MCU after Avengers Secret Wars, and it might not be what you think it's going to be, and another about a cosmic entity showing up in Avengers Secret Wars. We'll first start off with Secret Wars possibly being split into two parts, and it looks like that might be the case now for Avengers Secret Wars. We've heard reports about this recently, but now Alex Perez has chimed in. When doing a Q&A on their website, thecosmiccircus.com, somebody asked, what are the chances that Secret Wars will be split into two parts, because that has been going around. And Alex has said this, and it's incredibly interesting. He said, the current rumor running around is that Secret Wars is going to be split into two parts. I'd like to pile on to that rumor and say that there's a very high chance that it could. And the reason why is that over the last few days, the team here at Cosmic Circus has been monitoring updates for developments on multiple Marvel projects and have discovered that Avengers Secret Wars, which was originally approved to start in the coming months, has now grown into what is known as a conditional start phase. Essentially, it means that Marvel cannot legally film anything for Secret Wars until a new verification of the contract is achieved. In the few instances that this has happened, it's because there has been a massive shift from what the production was originally looking like. For example, like one film now being split into two parts. So this does point to Secret Wars possibly being two parts, and that has been what we have been hearing lately from other insiders as well. So I've asked this in a live stream. I'd like to ask you all now to leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Secret Wars should be put into two parts, or do you just want it to be one film? There is so much that they could do for Secret Wars, and the funny thing is we have to figure out, or we have to know what happens in Avengers Doomsday first, because we don't. We have some idea of what some of the plot is going to be in Avengers Doomsday, but how does it end? What characters specifically survive? Which characters specifically end up on a life raft or in the void? Or who sides with Doom? Who ends up with Loki? These are things that we just really don't know. How are they going to take on Doom in Avengers Secret Wars? We have no idea. Are there going to be a ton more characters in Secret Wars? It sounds like it based on other reports. There's a lot of things that we have to know to kind of figure out what Secret Wars is going to be about, but we know what it could be, and it could be a lot. So putting the movie into two different parts so it's not rushed, I like that idea. I know some people are questioning though, and I was questioning this myself. Well, what happens to the box office? If Avengers Doomsday is going to make a run for the biggest movie of all time, then Avengers Secret Wars could make that same run, try to be the biggest movie of all time. But how would they do that if it's two parts? Could they make as much, if not more money? Sure, they can make more money by splitting it into two different parts, but will either of those movies, Secret Wars Part 1 or Part 2, get close to the $2 billion mark? 2 million, sorry. No, billion. Yeah, billion. The 2 billion mark. I think they could, but could something go up there and pass Avatar if it's split into two parts? We'll have to wait and see on that. But let me know your thoughts. Would you like this split into two different parts? I would like it because I don't want them to rush anything. I really don't want them to rush. I want them to take their time and make sure that they get this right. This is a pretty big indicator, though, that this might happen. Now, moving on to the next one, which is really big and kind of conflicting against reports that we've heard in the past. Somebody asked if there's any truth to the theory that Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom was Iron Man originally, but was tortured by Kang and ended up believing he was Doom, which is interesting. I never heard this theory about Iron Man being tortured by Kang, but Alex said there's no truth to that theory. In the same way that Chris Evans can play two different characters in the MCU with the same face, the Human Torch, Captain America, so can Robert Downey Jr. play Victor Von Doom, and of course, Iron Man, Tony Stark. And just like how now we have a main Johnny Storm with Joseph Quinn, I'm hearing we'll eventually have another Victor Von Doom. So this report is basically telling us that Marvel has plans to recast Doctor Doom after Avengers Secret Wars. This kind of goes against what Daniel RPK has said in the past, that they won't, that actually Marvel is considering keeping Robert Downey Jr. on as Doctor Doom in the new MCU after Secret Wars, which I always thought was probably the best idea, because the Fantastic Four that we have right now is clearly going to be the Fantastic Four that is the main one going forward after Secret Wars. If they are going to tie Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom's backstory into the backstory with this particular Reed Richards, with Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, one, I think they have to do that because that's just such a huge part of their story. But two, that would mean that they would have to keep Doctor Doom the same going into the new MCU, because that backstory with Reed is really, really big. There's a lot of stories that basically are driven by that backstory, by that history of him being roommates with Reed in college, and a lot happening from there, and him starting to hate Reed, the rivalry, all the history with the Fantastic Four. That's really, really big. So if they were to get a new actor, if they were to replace Robert Downey Jr. with a new actor, it might not work too well. Or they could just kind of play it off like, hey, it's the same person, he just looks different. But I don't think that works, because we know that Captain America and Joseph Quinn, the Human Torch that Chris Evans played, they're not the same person. So I'm not quite sure how this would work. I would rather have Robert Downey Jr. play Doctor Doom for continuity purposes, but I do think it would be really cool to have somebody come in and play a new Doctor Doom at the same time. I'm just really worried that it'll kind of mess up the continuity, and I'm worried what they would do with Reed Richards' story connecting to Doctor Doom. Actually, I'm more worried about Doctor Doom's story connecting to Reed Richards going forward in the new MCU. One thing is for sure, Doom can't go anywhere. Doom has to be in the new MCU. He has to be there from the beginning, because we want everything in this new MCU, all the stories to start at the same time in the new MCU. We want the X-Men, we want our new Avengers team, plus the old Avengers kind of navigating this new world as well. We want Doctor Strange, we want Daredevil and all the Defenders, and we need Doctor Doom and the Fantastic Four to start the same way as well, even though the Fantastic Four kind of already have started in a different universe. But in the new universe, everyone's going to be together, and Doctor Doom has to be there as well. So I personally think that I'm very conflicted about this. I'm sure there's a way that they could do it, but I would much rather it be the same Doom played by Robert Downey Jr., I think, depending on what they do in Avengers Doomsday to connect them together. That's the biggest thing for me. I need that backstory to be connected, but let me know your thoughts about that in the comments down below. Now, one other thing that Alex Perez said during this, when he was asked, should we expect to see any of the cosmic entities? Since the multiverse is ending, I would think they would get involved. I would think so too. We've already seen some in the MCU. We've seen Eternity and the Living Tribunal. We've seen a couple of times in the Doctor Strange films. And in What If, we've seen the Watcher. Alex Perez says, the most I have heard about was the Watcher, but that's about it. But that tells us that the Watcher is going to be a part of the MCU. Will they connect What If to the MCU? Sure, it should be a part of the multiverse. That story, or the stories that we've seen in What If, just simply happen in other universes. And yeah, they could connect to the MCU. We could see Strange Supreme, right? We totally could. And we could, or it sounds like we are going to see the Watcher, which I do think makes a lot of sense, because he is a really important character in the comics, and he does show up with it during like really big events, really like huge weddings in the MCU. He shows up to watch sometimes, and he does interfere like we saw happen in What If. But I just think because we know Haley Atwell is going to return, and we know Peggy Carter, or at least a couple of Peggy Carters, are going to play roles in this. We've actually heard reports that Haley Atwell is going to be playing a couple of different characters, or maybe a few different characters. So maybe one is, this new multiversal Peggy Carter. Another one is simply the one that Steve stays back in time with. And maybe there's a bad one, because we've heard that there is a Peggy who is following Doom. We'll have to wait and see on that. But it does make sense for the Watcher to show up, especially considering what they did story-wise with What If, how he was there watching everything, and then he did interfere. It makes sense for him to show up. It makes sense for him to interfere. Once again, the entire multiverse is at jeopardy, and you have to kind of wonder, well, what happens at the end to him if the multiverse is destroyed? Can he still be a player in the game? Can he show up on Battleworld? Or is he erased from existence? What does happen to these cosmic entities? It does seem like Kevin Feige really is saving a lot of what he had planned to do in the multiverse saga for the next saga. Like, he really wanted to dive into the supernatural saga, or the supernatural side in the saga, and then he really wanted to dive into the cosmic side as well. The cosmic entities are obviously going to be in the cosmic side. We kind of dove into it a little bit, but when the plans changed, it kind of all became about Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, and kind of wrapping up all the stories that we've seen so far to basically go into these movies and essentially end. And then when we go into the new MCU, new stories begin. Some stories will continue over, like Spider-Man's story, but a lot of them are going to wrap up and get new beginnings. I'm pretty sure we're going to get new stories for the cosmic entities, and they're going to come into play even more than they have before, because they have a little bit like Airshim, the Celestials, and things like that. And Marvel Studios has filed copyrights for things such as Avengers Eternity Wars. There have been things that have suggested that they really are going to go on the cosmic side, and the Celestials are going to return, and possibly other cosmic entities as well. Nothing about the Eternals, unfortunately, but the Celestials, which, yeah, we did hear from Alex Perez actually in the past that Marvel's considering doing an AXE event, an Avengers X-Men Eternals, where the Celestials are actually coming to destroy Earth, and that's what gets all the teams fighting. So there's plans for this in the future. According to Alex Perez, don't expect too many cosmic entities. In fact, only expect the Watcher to show up. That doesn't mean they can't show up in Avengers Secret Wars, because they're probably still writing some of that right now, especially if it's being split into two different parts. We could probably expect, I would say, more cosmic entities there rather than Avengers Doomsday. But right now, it looks like in Avengers Doomsday, the Watcher is going to show up. So big reports today. Looks like Secret Wars could be 2 parts. Robert Downey Jr. might not be Dr. Doom moving forward in the MCU after Secret Wars, and it looks like the Watcher is showing up in Avengers Doomsday. Really exciting things happening right now. So if you want to stay up to date with everything, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos. Don't forget to like this video, and you can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.